Okay, so last week on May the 4th be with you, I finished reading Heaven's Feel. And with that, I am done with Fate Stay Night. I got all the bad endings, saw the final Tiger Dojo. I saw the final, I think it's called the last episode, which is essentially an epilogue of the Fate route that you only get at the end of Heaven's Feel because sure, why not? I think it's only in the Rialta Nua version as well. But this video is specifically just going to be talking about Heaven's Feel. With, I will, let me try that again. I will more than likely be making comments about the other routes as well, just kind of comparing and contrasting, but this is a Heaven's Feel-centric video. I've done one on the Fate route already, I've done one on UBW already, and very likely I will do a final video, just this is my opinion having read all of Fate's Day Night, like what is definitively my favorite route now that I have more time to sleep on it. Things that etc. We'll get to that when we eventually maybe get to it. But here in Heaven's Feel, the first thing I want to talk about, so I guess to give my roadmap, part one is what are the things that to me set Heaven's Feel apart? Like what are, I guess, the goals or the themes that this route focus on that the other routes don't do as much. Then going into the big set pieces, the parts that made me cry, because this is the only route to make me cry. And there were 2 times that it did, and then a few times where it got really close. So I feel like I need to shout those moments out. And while I do that, I'm also going to shout out a couple scenes that were like really fucking funny. Excuse me, and talk about some of the endings. Some of the really memorable bad endings. Heaven's Feel does have the most bad endings of any route. And then what I think of the normal ending, what I think of the true ending. And then this is just what I think of the main cast, which what I did in the Fate route, I was like, here's me talking about just Saber and Shiro. In UBW, it's Shiro, Rin, and Archer. Here, I feel like I need to shout out a whole bunch of people, like Shiro and Sakura, of course, but I do have to talk about how Rin is written. I gotta talk about Kirei and Ilia, because this is the Sakura route, but it's also the Ilia route, and it's the only route where Kirei feels like a consistent character and not just the final boss or this random dude who just kind of gives exposition and then dies later. But with all that being said, let's start with the goals and I guess aspects that differentiate Heaven's Feel, aside from the characters it focus on. Number one, to me, is it gives a lot of background information. And I wrote down a whole list of shit that it gives. I'm not going to dwell on everything, but some of the stuff that it does. Number one, just Sakura's backstory, because she is not a character really in the first 2 routes. She's just kind of there. Here, not only does she get a focus in the forefront of the story, you get her backstory. You get to learn about the years of abuse she endured at the Mato family. And man, just fuck the entire Mato family. I don't really like any of them, and yeah, that does include Sakura. We'll get to her when we really get to her, but God, they're all just fucking awful. If I made a tier list of all of my all the characters in Fate Stay Night, there would just be a Mato tier. All right, we're putting Zoken in there, we're putting Shinji in there, and we're putting Sakura in there. Maybe Sakura gets out of that barely, but she's in the Mato tier. We do get Ilia's story. We do get the fact that the confirmation that she's Kiritsugu's daughter. There is references to her relationship with him in other routes. In the Fate route, in one of the bad endings, I don't remember which one, it's one of the first 2 where she kills Shiro, right outside the church. She mentions Kiritsugu by name. And in UBW, I don't remember what it was, but there was some kind of reference to all the Einsburn masters. Oh yeah, the first war, blah, 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 the second war, blah, blah, blah. In the third war, they did something they really fucking shouldn't have. And then in the fourth war, they mentioned how, they had the strongest servant, which, is Saber. If you've been, that's how they've been written. Or, excuse me, that, the Saber class is described, I don't know why I'm so tongue-tied. Let me try that again. The Saber class is frequently described as being just the best class. So when you look at that, and you've already known by this point from reading the Fate route that, Kiritsugu was Saber's master, then I guess he was working for the Einsburn, so he would have some kind of connection with Ilia. And then this is the one that gets into that, yes, he is her dad, and that's why she has this fixation and fascination with Shiro. So you get that, which also, okay, so something I do have to shout out is she frequently refers to him as Oni-chan, which, if you're familiar with the Japanese language, you know, like that essentially means big brother. Nissan or whatever is brother. We put the O in front of it. It's an honorific saying like big brother. Now, this is something, like, I am not Japanese, but I watch a lot of anime and stuff. It's something that you will hear frequently, even when people aren't related, as kind of like a term of respect, especially like to an older male character, they might be Oni-san. Or if someone is a respected older female character, they might be One-san. So it's one of those really interesting things where Ilya calling Shiro Oni-san throughout the game does not necessarily mean, oh, she's calling him her brother. It's essentially just emphasizing her childlike qualities by, you know, here's this nicer older guy, so she's just calling him big brother. And then you get to Heaven's Feel, where it's like, oh no, they've actually been kind of fucking with you and playing on the expectation that you think it's just her innocence and like being a polite child. No, he's actually her brother. And then by the very end of the true end path, she says that actually I'm the older sister. So we are siblings, but actually I'm the older one, kiddo. And I really like that. I know Fatal Frame 2 does something very similar with that, which is just, I don't even think they tried to translate that in the English version, but I know it's actually used as a plot twist in the Japanese. Kirei. You also get Kirei's backstory because you get his fucking character in this route. Because I believe they do mention in both the Fate route and in UBW that, yeah, he gets pleasure from watching pain. Like, he loves misery. And he's just like that. He's a piece of shit. Heaven's Feel goes a little bit deeper into it, where they talk about Kirei's wife, who was also mentioned in Fate Zero. And all I knew in Fate Zero is that he had a wife and she died. And he's kind of not been the same since it happened. Excuse me. What they talk about in Heaven's Feel is she was terminally ill throughout their relationship. And the idea is that Kirei married someone who was terminally ill because it allowed him to see someone suffering and he enjoyed it. And when she died, and they talk about how it was a rainy night and he watched her die and she thought he was crying and he's like, no, I wasn't. It was just the rain. And he tells his wife that he never loved her. And in her final moments before she dies, she tells him, yes, you did. And then she passes. And Kirei talks about how he regrets that he didn't have a chance to kill her himself. But even he's like, I'm not sure if that regret is out of like genuine misanthropy. Like, if I wanted to be the one to kill her myself because of how it would have made me feel. Like, for her to experience death at the hands of the man she loved, that misery, the fact that I didn't get to see that in her eyes haunts me to this day. There's also a part of his brain that tells him, no, Kirei, the reason you wanted to kill her is because you wanted to end her suffering. Because you did love her. You genuinely did. And you wish that you could have given her a peaceful send-off. And he's not sure which one is correct. Which, I know I said at the very end I'm going to talk about the characters, but I really feel like I'm going to talk about them throughout. So we're going to cheat a little bit and probably just talk about Kirei. There's a genuine argument that he is my favorite character in the Fate series. A lot of that comes from Fate Zero because he is undoubtedly my favorite character in that anime. In the VN, in the Fate route, he's kind of whatever, but the fact that he's just a piece of shit and he's the final boss is kind of fun. In UBW, he doesn't get to do much. He's kind of an afterthought, unfortunately. Reading Heaven's Feel is the one where you kind of go, oh, okay, this guy is fantastic. First of all, there's the Mapo Tofu scene. This is the funniest scene in the VN. And this is a VN that... Sorry, I'm just remembering the sex scenes. The sex scenes in Fate are consistently fucking funny. Except Unlimited Blade Works, like, that's the one where it's like, this is not nearly as funny and just some of like the weird shit that Shiro was saying in his internal monologue. But like almost every other one like had me howling. And the ones in Heaven's Feel are hysterical. But this fucking scene of Shiro... So Rin tells Shiro, like, hey, after school, go to this specific restaurant. You need to go here at this time. So Shiro goes, and he's outside like, I fucking hate this place so much. This place it's so fucking spicy. Like, I'm pretty sure the cook here, like, sweet guy, nice guy. I'm pretty sure he literally studied with demons. And that's how he gets the spice so bad. And the Mapo tofu curry is some of the spiciest shit ever invented. I don't want to go in here. I don't want to see this shit. I don't want to smell this shit. But if Rin is telling me that I need to be here, she probably wants to talk with me. Let's go. And he opens the door, and Kirei is just staring at him with a bowl of Mapo tofu curry, and he's eating it. And as he's eating it, he's sweating profusely. Like, you hear the voice actor just panting in misery as he's shoveling spicy curry in his mouth. And as he's doing it, the waitress brings him 2 more plates of it. And he's just like, oh, Shiro, I've been waiting for you. It's really good. It's like, I hope you don't mind, but I couldn't wait anymore. I had to order before you came in. I hope you don't think me rude. You want some? No, I don't want it. It's so fucking funny. And then as they're having this conversation about the nature of the Grail War and Zokin and the Shadow and how Lancer is now dead and Kirei was a master, he's not a master anymore. And Shiro's like, what the fuck is wrong with this dude? How can he eat this shit? It's incredible. But in addition to being really fucking funny, it's a really creative way of showing Kirei's character. About how, he does get off on pain. That is, human pain and misery is what gives him pleasure. And it's not the fact that he is a masochist, per se, or that he's necessarily a sadist. His brain is just kind of fucked. And this is a really interesting way of showing that. It's like, yeah, this incredibly spicy food that people should not be able to enjoy. Not only is he eating it while showing how much his body is in pain, he's just ordering and eating more. What the fuck? He gets off on pain, even his own. But what makes me really fascinated by Kirei, and it's not just like the thing with his wife, because I think that's really interesting too. It's how as fucked up as he is, and as much as, he acknowledges it, there is something wrong with me. I have never been a normal person. I don't feel happiness the way that a normal person should. And as a man of God, I know there's something wrong. And I've tried to fix it. That's why I found a wife. I thought maybe that would be it. I've traveled to different places. I've studied under different people to find an answer, and yet there is none. But maybe the Grail has an answer. The Grail is this corrupted, evil thing that is the embodiment of all the evils and curses in the world. But maybe that thing at the core of the Grail, if it can come to life, maybe it's not truly evil. As fucked up as it is by nature, maybe there is hope for it. And if it can be brought into the world and not be evil, if it can find salvation, there might be salvation for me too. I know what this thing can do. And let's be honest, it's probably gonna destroy the entire city. It's probably gonna destroy the entire fucking world. I get it. But what if it doesn't? If it doesn't, then we were wrong to have tried to destroy it. And if it doesn't, and it can go against its nature, so can I. If I can, then I need to, even if it means risking the world. That's how I interpret Kirei. That's how I understand Kirei. And it's fascinating to me, especially when you get his final showdown with Shiro, where here's these two men who are dying. Kirei, like, they basically are kind of at a point where it's like, hey, so, I've got maybe 5 minutes left. You've got, what, maybe 4? But you want to destroy the Grail because you know what's inside it, and you don't want to see it come to life. I want to protect the Grail because I know what's inside it, and I want to see it come to life. Now, the two of us could just sit here, but, I mean, if we both just sit here, it'll come to life, and that means I win, and we both know you're not going to let that happen, Shiro. So, let's go. Let's do what we gotta do. My ideal versus your ideal. And whoever's body gives out first loses. And it's not like this epic mage fight like Rin and Sakura had a few minutes ago. Like we'll talk about some of the fights when we get to them. But it's not something like that. It's not this crazy fight between servants where they're fucking running up skyscrapers or projecting weapons or trying to snipe mages out of the sky while they're throwing spell. It is two dying men just throwing hands, just punching the shit out of each other, and how Kirei's techniques are fucking up his body because that's just kind of how it works. But Shiro has literal swords coming out of his body, so his is giving up too. And it's like every time you hit somebody, you're taking just as much damage. And the fight literally ends with Kirei about to hit like the finishing blow. And his body just gives out. He essentially dies halfway through his attack. But he still talks for a little bit. It's like, oh, I guess I ran out first. Well, it is what it is. But I just realized how goofy this would look at a thumbnail. I'm here to talk about Heaven's Feel, baby. But as he dies, he's like, all right, I mean, I gave out first. So you do what you gotta do. Disappointing, but it is what it is. Congratulations, I mean, Yorokobe. And it's fucking great. Like, I genuinely came to love this character again. I want to say again, because it's not like I read the Fate route in Unlimited Blade Works. I was like, oh man, I fucking hate this dude now. But it's like, okay, I loved him in Fate Zero. And now reading the source material, like, okay, we got to the thing about the character that I really love and just how fascinating he is. Aces. But back to talking about some of the background shit that you learn. The actual history of the Grail War. And because I think some of the other routes went into it to some degree, I believe, about the relationship and alliance between the Ainsburns, the Makiris, and the Tosakas. And how each of them, because I think it's the Ainsburns made the Grail, the Makiris made the command spells to bind the servants, and the Tosakas actually made the summoning ritual and also had the fucking land in Fuyuki. We get some information about that, and we get to learn about, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. The way it's spelled looks like Angra Mainyu. I believe whenever it's voice acted in the VN, it's like a Y, so you hear like Anya Mainyu. I don't know if that's a correct pronunciation or if that's just the accent. So I will generally be calling it Angra or Angra Mainyu. I've also heard as a meme Angry Matthew, which is so funny to me. I might just call Angra Angry Matthew at certain points. But you learn about Angra, who is the Avenger the Ainsburn summoned in the Third Holy Grail War, who is the embodiment of all evils and curses on humanity. So it was a village, I don't remember where. I want to say it was like in India or in Persia. I believe it was somewhere in kind of that area of the globe. There was a village that believed if we can imprint someone with all the evil of the world and all the sin of the world, essentially making them a Christ. Like, we're going to put all of humanity's evil on you, which means the rest of us are Gucci, because that means, hey, if all the evil's on you, there's none left for me, you, or you, so we're all happy. And they kept him alive, and they tortured him for years and years and years, until I think they said he died of old age. And Heaven's Feel also talks about anti-heroes in terms of the summoning, which is a heroic spirit is someone who have legends about them, whether they're a real person or kind of like a mythical figure, but their status has now become so high, and that's what gives them their power. That's how I understand it. I know I'm oversimplifying it, but it makes it easier for me to understand and be able to discuss. An anti-hero is, this person was a piece of shit, or that there was something about them that was hated, but over time they've become more revered, either because of the good things that they... Either the good things they were able to accomplish have now become more stated and more appreciated, or we kind of almost appreciate them as a villain, and we start to feel more sympathy for them because of the shit they had to endure. And that's what can make them a heroic spirit. It makes them an anti-hero. In terms of their stats, I don't think that inherently changes anything. It's just like, cool, you're now considered a heroic spirit as well, with a slightly different enumeration. And that's what Angra is. Because all the evils of the world, like, that would make him not a hero, but, well, he's essentially a savior. And that's what elevates him to that heroic status, because of how revered he was for his sacrifice. So he got summoned because he was just a dude with no powers. He was a trash servant and got killed. I don't know if they specifically said he got killed first, but like he got killed really early because that he did nothing for the master. He's probably weaker than his master. And given that they're an Einsburn, that probably is saying a lot. But, after that, his essence got taken in by the Grail, which is not the Grail, because there's literally a scene where Kirei is explaining, like, part of the history of the Holy Grail and, like, the differentiating between Grails, and he uses the term Holy Grail, like, 4 times in one sentence, and I think 3 of them are referring to 3 different Grails. I'm not gonna lie, this part is not super well explained. I'm not even gonna bother trying to explain it, but I'm gonna try anyways, so I guess I'm a liar. There's, like, okay, how do I want to say it? So, there's another world or realm, I guess, which is where magic, like, really comes from, or, like, where that intense power to make wishes come from. The Holy Grail is a gateway between our world and that world, and the Fuyuki City, which I guess that just means Fuyuki City, is, because of like all the ley lines and shit or whatever, is compatible for being the gateway. And by opening, so the small grail is where all the servants go into, and that gives it enough magical power to open the door. I'm sorry, I said that and my brain immediately went to Kingdom Hearts, which actually almost makes it make more sense. Okay, so think of it like this. The Holy Grail War is about collecting enough magic and just mana energy to make a key. That's what all the servants are supposed to do. So the point of the masters is to summon the servants, and after that, masters are kind of not needed. Every time a servant dies, they make part of the key. You get to a certain point where you've killed enough servants and collected enough mana that you have the key, so you can open the door to Kingdom Hearts, or Kingdom Hearts 1, because that is the door to darkness. But then you open it and you find out that Kingdom Hearts is not darkness, Kingdom Hearts is light. And then that's where all the light comes through, and that is where all of the super wish-granting power is. But Angra became part of the key, and then when Angra opened the door to light, because he's so malevolent, it turned it into the door to darkness. Because the magic on the other side grants wishes. So it granted the wish to make him the embodiment of all evil, which then granted his wish to give him the power to get his revenge on humanity. That is how I understand it, and I think that's right. There might be some parts that are a little bit wrong. It might be kind of oversimplified, because I mean this in the best possible way, but Fate is kind of overwritten. There's definitely times where they'll explain something and then kind of keep explaining it after they've already gotten the point across. I know Fate Go does that a lot. It's like, okay, this makes sense. Why are you still talking? Okay, now you have just taken something you explained perfectly and made it make less sense with more information. Thank you. But I still really like it. But regardless, so that's my understanding of the backstory of the Grail War and of Angra, and it's a lot. It's kind of just some fucking crazy bullshit. Okay, so the only other things that it focuses on in terms of background, you finally find out... Okay, so you find out why Sakura and Rin like Shiro, which is something I will criticize UBW for, like, given that it is the Rin route. You never find out why in that route. She's always had a thing for him, and it's just like, yeah, there was a day where Shiro was trying to pole vault, like, in the yard of the school, and he kept failing, and the two sisters completely independent... Oh, also, yeah, like, as part of the backstory, Sakura is Rin's sister. I completely skipped over that just because, like, yeah, I already knew that going into the VN, so to me that's just common knowledge, but that is an important thing that gets revealed. But independently, the two sisters watched this dude keep trying and trying and trying and failing over and over and over when there was no hope of success. And they both were just kind of endeared to how pathetic it was. They were like, this is pathetic, but at the same time kind of inspiring. It's like, for him... What they both interpreted, at least from what I remember, it was both their interpretations, is that for this dude, he wasn't trying to succeed. He was just trying to give it maximum effort. That's what the goal was. The goal wasn't to win. It was to try as hard as he could. And they both kind of found something beautiful about that. For Sakura, someone who's in this fucking awful situation, because as much as I don't really care for Sakura, I am not going to try to sugarcoat her backstory at all. Holy fuck. Fuck the Matos. But for her, it was kind of that, like, you know, even if things don't go the way you want them to, even if they don't get better, you can keep fighting. You can try to, you know, stay strong. For Rin, as someone who's like, you know, if I can tell something's not going to work out, I'm just going to give up because it's a waste of time. It was something that, while not really making her go, okay, this is going to change my life forever, she's like, that is the complete antithesis to what I think. And I kind of wish I didn't think like this. There is something beautiful about his spectacular effort, even if it will never yield results. I kind of really respect that. Another thing I gives backstory for is you finally find out what Gilgamesh said to Sakura in the prologue. Which in internet terms, essentially he just typed KYS. Because he goes up to her and he's like, you're gonna be a fucking problem. You should just die so that it doesn't become a massive problem. Okay, good talk. And then he leaves. You're like, oh, that's it. He just... Okay, sure, dog. And the other thing you get is Ryder's identity. She is Medusa. Which, let me just go ahead and talk about Ryder, because I have her written down, and I don't have much to say. I think she's boring. I feel like that's a hot take because I feel like people really seem to like Ryder. And on the one hand, I get it. She has a cool design. She's gorgeous. And there's her... She can be really badass. I still love her fight with Saber in the Fate route. Again, when they're Kingdom Heartsing up the buildings and shit. That is one of my favorite fights of the VN. Like, 1000%. I think it's way better than their fight at the end of Heaven's Feel. That fight is dog shit. It's boring. It's like, alright, you've got Black Saber, and then you've got Ryder, and this is this intense climactic battle, and then it just doesn't really go much of anywhere, and then there's a point where they both shoot their noble phantasms at each other, which is fine, but compared to the Fate route, where, like, yeah, they're running up buildings and trying to beat the shit out of each other, that's fucking cool, and they get on top of the buildings, and then Ryder's like, cool, let me show you my noble phantasm. Because in the Heaven's Feel one, it's essentially Excalibur is a Kamehameha, and then whatever the fuck Ryder's doing is also a Kamehameha. And like, oh, okay, that's it. Compared to, I fucking summoned Pegasus, and now I'm just firing Pegasus, like dive bombing you like it's an anti-tank rifle, and you can't do shit, Saber, because I have the high ground. And Saber going, you know what, bitch? You're a problem. And you know that good shit you were talking a second ago about how no one else is here to see your noble phantasm? so you can use it without people learning your true identity. Wow! It just so happens that means no one can see what I can do. And it's the first time you see Excalibur. And it's so cool. It's so exciting. You're like, this is a fucking fight. The Rider Saber fight is... It's a fight. Like, for the first part of the big climax? It's pretty weak! Now the rest of the climax is fucking-tastic. But it's... Like, her big fight isn't very good. She has a fight with True Assassin, which is cool, where she kicks his ass, but True Assassin sucks. This is every True Assassin fight. He shows up, talks some shit, jobs incredibly hard, and then lures a servant into the shadow where it just gets absorbed. So it's like, I was outthinking you because I knew this thing was here and I used it to my advantage. Aside from that, he's dog shit. Kirei fights him, like, that's a fun fight, but it's mostly just like, yeah, because Kirei is able to outmaneuver him, and it's fucking cool because anytime Kirei does anything, I just go, ooh, this is my homie. I love seeing this guy do shit. Like, he sucks. So even, like, yeah, Ryder kicking his ass, it's... Everyone kicked his ass. You're not special. Her first fight with Saber, I do have to shout out because it's over in 2 seconds. And it's so funny. Saber just destroying Ryder and Shinji just talking all that good shit, blinks, and he loses is primo. But in terms of Ryder's actual character, the only thing I think is endearing is, she wants to protect Sakura with everything she has. And to me, it's not just, she's my master, it's what I gotta do. It is, I feel a kinship with this girl. And with all the shit she's been through, she needs people in her corner. And I will not let another hand touch her as long as I live, as long as I'm around. And I do like that. But we also get no backstory. Like, look at the Fate route and just how much backstory you get for Saber. Look at UBW and then how much backstory you get for Archer. Even, like, with Caster, you get a decent little amount of it. You get, like, nothing for Kukulin, but you don't really need it. Yeah, you really don't get any for Heracles either, aside from your strong Berserker scene from UBW, which... didn't make me cry, but it got me close. Like, I'll just go and say this. Both scenes that made me cry in this route are Ilya scenes. Like, as much as I say that Kirei might be my favorite character, Ilya is another really strong contender, man. But Ryder feels like she is the main servant of the route, and we don't get a backstory. And I needed one. I needed to know, it's like, what have you gone through to make you the way you are? Like, as someone who knows, like, I'm not, like, super deep in Greek mythology. Like, there's shit that I know, and I tend to like what I know. Excuse me. I do believe that Medusa was raped by Poseidon. So I can definitely understand. I was like, okay, with a backstory like that, you would be very protective of Sakura, who's gone through similar shit. Who's been raped, who's been abused, who's been, like, all of her pain has been ignored. If I didn't know anything about the story of Medusa, though, aside from Snake Bitch, who's got the snake eyes, snake hair that can turn you to stone, I wouldn't even think of that. I'd just be like, cool, so, like, that's it, I guess, whatever. And I feel like making that connection with me in this story was something that was missed. And so I just feel like Ryder is a consistent missed opportunity in every route. But at least in the Fate route, she gets a really cool fight. And here, her fight is in place of a really cool fight. I'm going to put a fat pin in that. If you read it, you might already know what I'm talking about. But oh boy, when we get to Sparks Liner High, that is primo new bullshit. That's basically it in terms of background. Well, I've also talked about a bunch of other shit. So I guess the next thing that to me the Fate route, the Heaven's Feel really focuses on is by making this route a lot darker. Yeah, I feel like this is a good time to just talk about Sakura. So Sakura's history is, she is the second daughter of the Tosaka family, And as a family of mages, they only need one kid. The Mato family magic was dying out, so they're like, hey, Matos, we're good for the most part. Your magic is dying, and we have an extra. You want her? And Zokin, the head of the Mato family, said, sure, bring her on over. We'll make her part of the family. So, she was made part of the family. I don't want to have to say it, because I hate the worms, but she was exposed to the worms. The lust worms are penises. And I know how that sounds. Like, that sounds really stupid and kind of goofy. Like, they're just penis worms. Like, yes, they're penis worms with teeth. And it sounds really dumb. And then when you see them, though, in, like, the CGs, they're just horrifying to look at. And they talk about what they do to people. Like, oh, if you're a man, it's not going to be a very pleasant way to go. But it should be pretty quick. If you're a woman, it's not going to be a quick way to go. They're going to take their time, and the worms are going to enjoy what they do to you. And there is a scene later where you read from the perspective of a woman who is raped and murdered by Zokin's worms. That, to me, is one of the most memorable parts of the entire VN. It was horrifying. And Heaven's Feel is the horror route. Just the fucking shadow. And I know I was going to talk about soccer, but I'm going to kind of talk about some of the other horror shit, so quick pin in her. But, out of context, that sounds really bad. Like, just, like, with what I have to talk about, it's like, I don't want to say it like that's like, we're going to put a pin there and we'll talk about soccer. Let me get that rephrased. There's the fucking worms. There's the shadow, which is this eldritch demon that all the servants are terrified of. Like, Saber took one look at it and said, Shiro, I don't want to fuck with this. And Shiro's like, I know you don't want to, but there's something we have to deal with. It's like, Shiro, if you're my master, fine, we will do it. But just know, I don't want to deal with this. But you have the fact that it is essentially unstoppable. Like, once it gets a servant, they're just gone. They are going to get absorbed. It's able to take out Saber. It's able to take out Zerker. It's able to take out fucking Gilgamesh. All pretty easily. Like, you've got that scene where the woman dies. Like, you get these interludes from the Shadow's perspective where it is killing people. Like, it is devouring people. What are some of the other things I haven't seen other, like, super horror-based? Like, those are the ones that are coming to mind. I guess there's also the fact that it's not really much of a Grail War because pretty quickly most of the servants are fucking dead. Like, hey, Assassin. Oh, bye, Assassin. Hey, Caster. Oh, fucking bye, Caster. Like, we're 2 days in and we've already lost, like, several people. What the fuck? Let me see. What else I want to talk before the darker before I really get into Sakura? Oh, superhero. Okay. Or I guess that's the other thing. It's just like talking about all of Shiro's character, which is kind of the next point. So we'll talk about that next, but let's go into Sakura. The best way I can articulate why I don't like Sakura's character is by, to me, Sakura exemplifies a school shooter. She is someone who has been a victim, genuinely. And it's like, I don't want to downplay that. The abuse she has endured at the hands of the Mato it's fucking evil. I hate these people. It's kind of fascinating to me how Heaven's Feel is the first route to really go into Shinji's psychology and just his massive inferiority complex. And how he never feels like he's good enough because he wants to be a mage like his family, but he's just not capable of doing it. And how it fuels this self-hatred, which in turn makes him hate everyone else around him. How it's the first route to go into his psychology and why he is the way he is, and it makes him less likable. Because fuck this guy. And now he's like, oh, this girl came into my life and essentially took everything from me. And she had the fucking nerve to apologize. Well, if you're apologizing to me, it means you feel bad. It means you think that you owe me something and I'm gonna fucking take it out of you. So he's been raping her for years. On top of what she's had to deal with the worms. Because she is a genuine victim. But you can be a genuine victim of bullying, whether it's through words, whether it's through violence, it's through other actions. But the moment you show up in a public place with a loaded weapon and the intent to do something with that loaded weapon, you're not a victim anymore. And to me, that's what Sakura is. I think there's an argument to be made that the shadow, because she is the shadow, it is something that is a part of her. It's kind of dubious how much control she has over it, at least for an amount of time. There's an argument to be made that Sakura Mato is a good-hearted person. But the shadow, that being Angra Mainyu, and the fact that Zoken made her into a holy grail. So she has that horribleness inside her. That all the horrible things she's done and does throughout the route, like all the times the shadow was killing people and eating people, that's not Sakura, that's Angra. When she's talking about how, if I break Senpai's leg, he won't be able to go out anymore and he won't be able to be hurt. That's not Sakura, that's Angra. When she talks about how she wants Rin to suffer the way that she suffered, that's not Sakura, that's Angra. You can make that argument. But I disagree. To me, it's both of that is Sakura. There is that very demure person that's trying to do her best in these horrible circumstances that has this intense loathing of her, of her abusers, which justified 2 fucking billion%. Hatred toward Rin for being the sister that doesn't have to endure this and for not saving her, which is less justified, but you can still get it. And also just kind of this hatred for everyone else for never doing anything about it. And I feel like it's what made her compatible with Angra. It's not that Angra caused these feelings to exist, it's that they were there. Because it's something they talk about pretty frequently in Fate, is that a master summons a servant that is similar to them. You still need the catalyst, but you'll summon someone who's close to you in the way they act, the way they think. I guess, looking at some of them, like Tokiomi and Gilgamesh, they're both people with a lot of pride. Gilgamesh as the king of strong-walled Uruk, and Tokiomi, the head of this prestigious family. They both have a lot of culture. They kind of have a lot of tradition. They think very fucking highly of themselves. You have Kiritsugu and Shiro summoning Saber. And how Saber and Shiro are just like reading the Fate around like, you two are the same fucking person. It's kind of insane. And how they have killed their sense of self to help other people. For Kiritsugu and Shiro, it's to help anyone who needs it. And then for Saber, it's as a king to protect the people of Britain. You have Sakura and Ryder, people who have endured a lot of abuse, and some of that is also sexual abuse, and who didn't get the help they needed. And it turned into bitterness. And I feel like Sakura's compatibility with Angra is something along those lines. You and I are the same person. I get where your anger comes from. And it just gives Sakura her power. And again, to use my metaphor, Angra is the loaded gun. And the shadow is her going into public areas and letting loose. And I don't find her sympathetic as a result of that. Something I thought of just like throughout I was reading the route, I was like, I pity Sakura, but I don't really like her. This is, and part of it is like, I just don't find her to be like that entertaining to me. Like, I don't think she's super funny. I don't think she's super badass. Like, she's sweet, but that's kind of it. And then there's also, okay, so we'll talk about her relationship with Shiro a little bit later. And that's kind of a part of it too, is I just don't find myself that invested in their relationship compared to his with Saber or his with Rin. And it was the femme fatale ending. That was the moment where I said to myself, you're a Mato, Sakura. You are just as bad as the rest of them. The femme fatale ending, which is one of the ones I had written down with my endings because we are just going out of order all the time here, is in the climax, there's a point where after Ryder's fight with Saber, Shiro has the opportunity to kill Saber. If you kill her, congratulations, you are now doing what you're supposed to do. The other option is you don't kill Saber. And if you don't, Shiro has all these memories of her. And that's one of the scenes that almost made me cry. And he's just thinking about like how close they were and all the time they spent in this route, and he just can't bring down the knife. So, his moment of hesitation allows Saber to escape because Sakura is getting clowned on by Rin. So she calls back Saber, and they defeat Rin, and Rin gets absorbed into the shadow. I guess at that point it's more just like the mud. And while that's going, and then so Shiro confronts Sakura. Hi, Joes. I'm in the middle of recording. Do you want to say hi? No, Jose didn't want to say hi. He's shy. So while this is going on, Sakura's like, Senpai, Nessan is gone. But don't worry. She's not dead. She's in here with me. And I'm making sure she's not dead. She is going to get to experience everything that I had to experience with the Mato family for 11 years. You know what's so funny to me? She's only on the first day, and she's already crying, and she's begging for me to stop. But I'm going to be honest with you. The more she begs, the more I just want to keep going. I am going to make her suffer. And you want to know my favorite part, Senpai? This is your fault. Because you could have killed Saber. And if you didn't, I wouldn't have been able to call her back. And Nessan probably would have killed me. But because you couldn't kill her, I won. And Rin is going to suffer forever. Wow! Like, I don't like you anymore. I hate you. I hate your character. Fuck you. You are a Mato tier character, Sakura. Now, you can make an argument that that's not canon, but it's Fate. Everything's canon. So, because it's like that, I guess. So that the argument doesn't really work. You could argue that it's a bad ending, so it's kind of playing up and emphasizing her bad traits. But to that, I would argue, while the ending is kind of emphasizing it, those feelings are there. Like, that is genuinely what Sakura wants to do, and this is just a situation where she got what she wanted. Again, I think the strongest argument against that is not Sakura Mato, that is Angra, that is the shadow overtaking her. But I just don't see it that way. I see them as not like, you have overtaken me and I'm doing what you're saying. It's no, we are compatible. Sakura is down with this. She thinks this is a good idea. And it's like, I just don't like you. I don't want you to win. I don't support your relationship with Shiro. The fact that we have And I think that's the problem. It's not just like, okay, like Shiro needs to protect this girl because of all the fucking horrible things that have happened to her and she deserves his protection. It's, you've become the problem. Why am I rooting for you? I just fucking don't, you horrible person. Horrible things can happen to you, but it doesn't justify it when you start doing it to innocent people. No. Fuck you. So now we can transition into talking about the next thing that the Heaven's Feel route really does, which is how it focuses on Shiro. It does it in a different way than UBW, because UBW was all about, like, let's really analyze the ideal of Emiya Shiro, about wanting to be a hero, helping people at the denial of himself, and what that can look like in the form of Archer. Heaven's Feel is, let's test the ideal of Emiya Shiro. You want to be a hero. You want to save people, keep people from suffering. Here is a dear friend of yours, someone you have grown to love. I have to put it in air quotes. We'll get to it soon. But someone you have grown to love. But you have learned that she is a problem. Like, there is this power that she can't control inside her. And as Kirei described, she is a ticking time bomb, and Zoken holds the detonator. You don't really know when she's going to go off, when she is going to hurt people, when she is going to kill people. If you, Shiro, want to be a hero that keeps people safe and happy, you have to choose them over Sakura. Which leads to one of my two favorite choices in the entire VN. The other is also in this route. And it's just like, we'll get to it when we talk about the set pieces. But it's after, so there's this, this is the first time the VN made me cry, by the way. So after all this shit about Sakura, and Rin's like, we have to fucking put her down because she's a problem. And Kirei going, I'm going to do what I can to save her. No guarantees, but this is what the problem is. If I can fix it, great. If I can't, and I probably can't, then have your discussion. So Shiro goes back to the park where he keeps meeting Ilia. Ilia shows up and she's like, come on, like, Shiro, I've been here for like 10 minutes and you haven't noticed me. Come on, dude. I want to talk. I want to play. Let's do something. He's like, no, I don't want to talk. Please just leave me alone. Please just leave me alone. And then Ilia keeps bugging him. He's like, I said leave me alone. He just like shoves her. And he has that moment where he's like, fuck. Like, you know, Ilia had become my friend. I was starting to form like a bond with her. You know, almost like she was a little sister. And all of the goodwill and all of the trust I have earned with this person is now gone in the fucking second. And it's all my fault. Fuck. And Ilia. Cold, merciless Eliasville Einsburn. I think at that moment the music just stops and she's just staring at Shiro. And she walks up to him and then just pats him on the shoulder or pats him on the head. It is not a moment of her going, okay, buddy, you've just made your last mistake. She shows genuine empathy, which almost feels weird for Ilia to be doing. She's just like, okay, what's wrong? For you to act like this, something is very clearly wrong. But you are my friend. You are someone I want to be my ally. What can I do for you? Fuck, I can actually feel the tears like coming. I don't actually know if I'm going to cry right now, but I might. And Shiro just kind of talks about it, and then you get a choice. You can either choose to protect Sakura, or you can persist on being a superhero. Which leads to the superhero bad ending, where Shiro says, no. If Sakura is going to be a problem and is going to lead to people dying, I have to stop the problem. I know what I'm going to do, Ilya. I'm going to stop her. And Ilya just looks at him and says, I really pity you, Shiro. You've just become Kiritsugu. She leaves. Okay, I'm crying. Like, I don't know if you can see it. I feel it. And Shiro goes back to the church, and Kirei's like, I did what I could. It wasn't much. Sakura's a problem. And Ren's like, okay, I'm her sister. I'm going to go take care of the problem. Shiro, are you good with this? Are you going to stop me? And Shiro goes, no, I'll do it if you don't want to. Because you're right, it needs to be done. And Ren's like, no, I'll take care of it. So she goes into the back room to take care of the problem. And Sakura can overhear them, by the way, because there's a point earlier where Kirei's talking to her, and he's like, Sakura, the walls in this part of the church are really thin. It's a structural defect. If they say something that rubs you the wrong way, there's an exit. You can always, break a window, and they wouldn't be able to stop you. So Sakura literally hears the man she loves and her older sister say, we need to kill her because she's a problem, and stays and lets it happen. Fuck. But as Rin goes to take care of it, Kirei goes up to Shiro, and he's kind of laughing. He's like, you really are just Kiritsugu now. Oh my goodness. I can't wait to watch the ending of this war. To which Shiro's like, you say that like you know what the fuck is going to happen. Oh, I do know what's going to happen. Isn't it obvious? I just said it. You're Kiritsugu. Kiritsugu didn't lose our Grail War, Shiro. You are going... If you're willing to do this to stop a potential problem, then you are going to do everything in your power to make sure Rin gets that Holy Grail. And then you're going to learn what the Holy Grail is, Shiro. And once you've learned what it is, you are going to destroy it. And Rin's not going to let you. Because she's going to want that wish to save her sister. But you're not going to allow that. You'll kill Iliasville. Veal. I keep saying it wrong. You'll kill Ilia, your little sister. Then you'll kill your friend Rin. And no one will stop you. And that's going to be fucking great to watch. And then you get this little narration after, which is just, we don't even need to go into the details. Reader, you know what the fuck's going to happen. Miyashiro will turn his mind to steel and become a superhero. And then you get the Tiger Dojo. There are some endings that are just kind of mid. I know there's one bad ending in Heaven's Feel where you just kind of give up the fight and the ending itself is really boring, and then the Tiger Dojo is fucking hilarious. Because there's some Tiger Dojos I think are probably just fine, but most of them are really, really funny. This one doesn't even try to make a joke. There isn't bah, Shiro, what are you doing? Tiger's just sitting there and, yeah, this is one potential outcome. This is something that can genuinely happen in the story of Miyashiro. Just load it back up, try again, and see what else you get. And Ilya is just quiet for a moment. Just calls him an idiot. And that's that ending. And it hits really fucking hard. And the reason I can't say it's my favorite bad ending because Sparks Liner High exists, but it's between those two for very different reasons. But it's because While most bad endings feel like this is punishment on the player for doing something stupid. Like, gee, it's Rin's route and you weren't trying to become close with Rin, so you didn't have enough affection points. Idiot. Hey, you chose not to fight in the Grail War. What did you think was gonna happen? Idiot. Most of them have that feel to it. This one doesn't. No. This is genuinely something that could happen to Shiro. This is a timeline where he becomes Archer. And after reading Limited Blade Works, and how much that man hated himself for the things he had done and for the path that he walked, seeing Shiro willingly do the same shit, and knowing that it makes sense for him to do it, is fucking devastating. But the correct answer in that scenario is to protect Sakura. And Shiro constantly throughout the route is, I can't even say constant, but there are a few times he's like, am I making the right choice? Especially once he starts to realize what the shadow is. He's like, I don't know if I made the right choice anymore. But I have to keep doing this. I said I would protect her. And I'm going to. And how he's made his choice, and his body just doesn't quite agree with it. And there's also the fact that there's a point where he loses his arm, Archer fucking dies, so he gets Archer's arm, and how they're like, well, the only reason this is working, Shiro, is because you and Archer are the same dude, like, your compatibility is what allows this to work. We still attached a servant's arm onto your body. You can probably use it, like, thrice, and then you will just die. And just having it attached, he's in so much pain, and his brain is literally frying. And anytime he uses the projection magic, not even just like with the arm, it's fucking up his brain. And then he does it with the arm, and it just gets so much worse. There are these moments where he'll just be like in the middle of a conversation with Rin and Ilya, and then it's 5 hours later, and he has no idea what the fuck happened in the last 5 hours. And it just gets worse and worse as it goes on. And it's so interesting to read, but it's so fucking sad. And seeing, as there's like a few scenes where he'll talk to Ilya, and it's very clear that Ilya's like, you can't save us both, Shiro. You know you can't save us both. And Shiro's saying, I know I can, and I fucking will. And in the normal ending, he does. But it is at the cost of his own life. And reading Shiro doing everything he can to protect the people he loves, ultimately at the cost of himself. It's heartbreaking to read, but it makes sense. Like, this is actually a really good ending for Shiro, because he didn't let the people he cared about die. It's very bittersweet. But it feels like his struggle wasn't in vain. And I've got to give him that. I don't know if... another thing I will say about Shiro is I like how proactive he is in Heaven's Feel. Like, he's like, okay, Saber, like, I guess we're just going to go on patrol and see what the fuck is going around town and, try to stop this war, try to stop people. Like, you got him in the Fate route, he's like, I don't really want to do anything. Okay, we shouldn't be super active, but when we do fight shit, let me do it because you can't get hurt. And then Unlimited Blade Works, he's not that stupid. He's like, all right, we got to make sure we make good plans of attack, which I like. I like that he's more like methodical about it and analytical. And in Heaven's Feel, he's like, all right, Saber, you ready to go patrol town? And if we run into someone, we'll throw hands. I love that shit. Like, I can't say that this is my favorite version of Shiro because UBW exists, but I can't say UBW is my favorite version of Shiro because Heaven's Feel exists. Like, he's fucking great in both routes. So now I have to talk about the other thing that Heaven's Feel really tries to do, which is it's the horny route, it's the erotic route. Because the sex scenes in the first two routes kind of come out of nowhere. In Heaven's Feel, you're like, no, this dude is horny as hell. It makes perfect sense. And this is why his relationship with Sakura doesn't work for me. What I feel like the intention is This is someone he's had a strong relationship with for quite a while. They're friends. They care about each other. They know each other. They're comfortable around each other. And Shiro is starting to realize his own feelings and see her less as his friend or as his friend's sister, and as a woman. And as he learns more about her and the shit that she has been through, it makes him more determined to protect her from those people. And there is something sweet in there that I really like. The problem is, there's so many scenes where it's less of, man, like, I really care about Sakura, and more just like, fuck, she's hot. Her boobs are massive. Like, there's a whole conversation where she and Taiga are just talking about how big Sakura's boobs are, and Shiro's like, dude, I'm right here. There's scenes where he talks about having morning wood. There's a scene where he's talking to Rin about... Okay, so first off, there's the sex dream with Rin, which... That's hysterical. Like, oh my god, that scene is fucking funny. It smells like a woman. It's like, gosh, and part of it I don't even want to quote. It's so bad, but it's so funny. And he's talking to Rin after, and he starts, like, remembering the sex dream, and he's getting really embarrassed, and then Rin just starts grinning at him. She's like, oh, you're that kind of guy. I bet you masturbate to me. I'm like, oh, we're just talking about all the shit in this route, I guess. But to me, it really cheapens the romance with Sakura, because to me, again, while I can see what they're going for, the way it reads is, Shiro got really, really horny, and Sakura's really horny too, and now he's just like, yeah, this is my girl, like, this is the woman I've been fucking, and so I'm willing to let so many people die because the pussy is that good. Like, that's kind of almost how it reads, and I hate that, because it cheapens the romance, it cheapens... like, the shit in the climax with that. It feels like the yandere tendencies, how Sakura is like, this is the one good thing in my life, and I am not going to let anything bad happen to him. I will break him to keep him from suffering more. I will destroy Rin, and I won't let her take him from me. The fact that their relationship seems so, like the sex is just that crucial to it, makes it less interesting. It makes it less sympathetic for me. The fact that Shiro is willing to forsake his ideal because she has nice boobs, rather than because she's this wonderful person that he loves, makes it not feel as strong to me, and I'd be really lying if I said otherwise. I'm like, man, this route feels weird at times. Thank God there's not a sex scene with Ilya. I think that's really all I have to say about the background shit. It's like, yeah, I realize that we're an hour in. Like, this, I'm pretty sure, is now longer than the other two videos, and there's a lot of other shit to talk about with HF, man. But a lot of it I've kind of talked about as I've went, so we'll just go into the set pieces, which usually is me just talking about the fight scenes. But here's the thing, the Heaven's Feel fight scenes fucking suck, with some notable exceptions. But it's like I said, a lot of them are, I'm true assassin, I'm dangerous. Then he jobs, and they're like, ha, you fell for my trap card, fool. You've now fallen into the mud. And, like, that's it. I'm like, these fucking suck. The Rider-Saber fight in the climax is fucking boring, like, compared to the one in the Fate route, which is 10 times better. Shiro's fight with Berserker, as a fight, is actually not that good. The 9 Lives Blade Work section is phenomenal. Like, it's so hype. Just him decide, like, I have to use Archer's arm to save Ilya. I will fucking destroy my body. I will fry my brain to save this person. And then, like, as he's, like, in this weird kaleidoscopic mindscape, and he sees Archer, and Archer's just looking back at him like, can you keep up? Motherfucker, you better keep up with me! And then he summons Berserker's weapon, and he used, like, the actual fighting itself is pretty boring. He just gets a weapon, and then it's done. But the actual shit that's happening and, like, what he has to do is really hype and exciting, and I love it. When you do, like, when he does break into the mansion, which is, like, some fucking Mission Impossible shit, and I love it. When he breaks into the mansion and he finds Ilya, and she's like, Shiro, you need to fucking go. Like, I'm here voluntarily to save your ass. If they find that you and him are here for me, you're gonna die. And he's like, I don't care. Like, you get 3 options. Option 1, bring Elia back. Option 2, bring Elia back. Or option 3, bring Elia back. That's my other favorite choice in the entire VN. Unironically, like, on the one hand, it's like, okay, the fact that you just have 3 choices are all the same thing, that's pretty funny. But it's just, Shiro is here to save his sister, and nothing is going to convince him otherwise. There is no bullshit bad ending there. There is no bad choice. It is regardless of what he is thinking, he is saving this person, and that is amazing. Like, that is why I love Shiro. Sorry, like, what are some of the other fights? And, like, should I want to talk about that one? 9 Lives Blade works. Oh, yeah, the fucking scene where Gil dies, like, gets eaten by the mud. It's fucking dog shit. I hated it. Okay, so part of it is, like, yeah, Gilgamesh get fucking jobs. And, like, as much as I love Gil, I don't want to see that happen. From the perspective of this is a horror story now, it's fucking great because it's terrifying, but I'm also like, wait, that actually worked? Like, she actually got Gil? I don't know, like, I know that, like, once you're in the mud, but if anyone should get out of that, Gil should be able to. Like, he really can't kill her as this is happening? Like, I guess it's one of those, like, I get what's happening. Do I buy what's happening? I'm not super sure. But what was it? Because I wrote down what Gil had said to Sakura because it was so fucking savage. It was, that is unsightly, do not bother me. So it's as she's dying, and she's like, but I have to go back to Senpai, like, I'm finally happy. If I die, Rin will get him. And then Gilgamesh is like, shut the fuck up, I don't care. Was kind of fucking funny to me. Because this is around the time I was like, I don't know how much I really sympathize with Sakura anymore. Like, she is kind of a problem. Maybe we do just need to deal with it. The fact that Gil is like, I'm going to just fucking take care of it. And that it didn't work. It's a memorable scene. I don't know how much I like it. So, into the climax. So, there's the Rider Saber fight, which is dog shit. The Shiro Kirei fight, which is great. And then there's the Rin Sakura fight, which is also great. Of Sakura summoning all these, like, giant fucking demon shadows, like they're the giants from Majora's Mask, sending them at Rin. Rin pulls out a dagger and starts fucking them up. And Sakura, I'm sorry, how are you doing this? I'm like as strong as a god right now. And then Rin's like, well, actually, fun fact, my magic dagger takes the magic from parallel worlds, and there's an infinite number of parallel worlds, and because I can absorb magic through time and space, I have infinite magic, bitch. What? What the fuck would this make more sense if I read... And again, it's one of those, like, it makes sense in that I can follow the explanation of what's happening, but I'm like, okay, as soon as they were talking about, like, the second sorcery and the third sorcery, I'm like, is this shit that would make... Like, if I read Tsukihime, I'd know exactly what they were talking about, and I'd be super down with it. Because as is, it just feels like they're making shit up and pulling it out of their ass. But it's so fucking, like, insane and kind of fun that I'm down with it, and it does lead to a fun fight. So I don't hate, I actually really like it. But then we get to the best fight in Heaven's Feel. And in addition to Superhero, the other best bad ending. And when I say the best fight in Heaven's Feel, what I really mean is, aside from the Shiro Archer fight, this is the best fight in the VN. It might be my favorite scene in the VN, aside from the Shiro Archer fight. And this is Sparks Liner High. This is the bad ending, where Shiro says, like, so he and Rin, without Rider, go to the final boss. Like, we're gonna go take care of this. Saber shows up and says, I am here to stop everyone but Rin. Rin, Sakura wants to see you. You go take care of that shit. Everyone else, you're mine. And in the I can't say canon because everything's canon. In the normal ending and true ending, Shiro is there with Rider. Rider fights, and then Shiro, like, gets the finishing blow. In this route, there is no Rider. So it's Shiro fighting Saber. It's so much better. Because there's actual feeling in it. Rider and Saber is just like, yeah, it's the last two servants having a duel, and it's fine. This is Shiro fighting his servant And even though his brain is still fucked and is fried, he knows who she is and how much this hurts him. And the way that Saber talks to him is, she has a new master now, but she still recognizes Shiro's face. She still knows who he is. And it makes the fight so much more emotional. And as someone who has been reading the VN, and you see like all their duels in the training room in the Fate route, and how Shiro's fucking losing in Unlimited Blade Works, where he's getting his ass kicked, and then in Heaven's Feel, the fucking scene where he comes back after hanging out with Ilya all day, and Sakura's pissed at him for leaving and not telling him where he went. Saber's pissed, and Saber's like, you know what, Shiro? If you're feeling well enough to leave the house and not come back for hours, I think you're well enough for training. What do you think, Sakura? And she's like, I second that. You know what, Shiro? You go have a nice long training session with Saber, and then Saber just beats his ass. It's hysterical. And after all of that, like reading all of that shit, now they have a proper fight. And because Shiro has Archer's arm, it has been like bleeding into him. So he's getting like servant stats as well as like this projection magic. So he can actually win this. And as they're fighting, Saber's not using the Noble Phantasm. Like, she's just swordplay. It's incredible. Like, the actual fight is good. And then this song plays that's only in Rialto knew, and it plays nowhere else in the entire video. It's called Mighty Wind. And it's so good, and it's so fucking hype. And as they're fighting, and Shiro's like, I have to use the projection here. I know I said I was going to save it for soccer, but I got to do shit here. And they're going, and he's like, I only have, like, one left that I can do. And Saber's like, Shiro, if you don't beat me, you can't get to Sakura. You can't hold anything back. You can't, because I will kill you as much as I don't want to. Whatever you have to use it now. And I think it's at that point where Shiro's image of her gets really, like, kind of blurry and fuzzy. And then you see, like, Salter, because Black Saber, Saber alters. I don't know if they call her Salter. And so you see Salter, and then you get regular Saber sprite, like, just kind of starts getting superimposed into her. And then in, like, the final moment of their fight, like, right before the climactic showdown of it, he sees her as she was. And I'm almost about to cry, because I almost fucking cried when I got to that scene, too. I actually am crying a little bit. I was like, oh, this is fucking beautiful. And because I think at that point, his brain was so fried, he didn't even know who she was anymore. Like, he couldn't remember her name. He's like, all I know is she's important to me. And I have to win. I have all of Archer's memories, all of his techniques. There's got to be something in here that I can use to win this in one go. Which, of course, is calling back to the Fate route, where you have an option to talk to Saber about how, hey, Saber, is there like a super move you could teach me that could beat a servant in one move? Because, like, that is what this is. Like, Sparks Liner High feels like the climax of Fate Stay Night. Of just every fucking route was building up to this moment. And it's why it's fucking amazing. And so as he's doing, he's like, okay, I have to make like a projection on top of a projection on top of a projection. And like as he's going and his brain is being fried, it works. And when Saber is open, he lands that final blow. And after he just sits there and is like, I did it. I don't know what I did. My brain is gone. But whatever it is, I know I did it. I've accomplished something great. I hope it was worth it. And then you cut to Saber's perspective where she's like, Shiro, you fucking did it, man. Good job. I am so proud of you. But now you have to finish me off. Shiro? Shiro? And as he... Sorry, I remembered something else about the scene that I fucking love, but I'll talk about it in a second. And as she's, like, calling for him, she realizes that he's gone. She's like, oh. I guess that's my win, then. Because you can't finish me off. Well, I'm injured enough that I can't really go up and finish you off either. And if my master calls me, I mean, I'm kind of injured enough that I might not be much help. So, you did what you needed to, Shiro. You kept me away from Sakura so Rin can do what she's gotta do, and I have no fucking clue who's winning. But it doesn't really matter, does it? Because regardless of which of those sisters win, they're still gonna lose you. And I don't think either of them is gonna be happy with that. And instead of a bad end or dead end, it just says end. And it's so good. The other thing I forgot to say is right before Shiro, uses the final part of the attack as he's going in the fight, he just screams her name, Sabaf! And it's like that moment of clarity right before he loses everything. It is perfect. It is the best moment of Heaven's Feel. It is the best bad ending. It is right there with the Archer fight in Unlimited Blade Works for being my favorite part of the entire VN. And it's one of those where it's like, I might say that it's my favorite. I feel like it is the Archer fight. Because of how much that was the thing that made me truly love Shiro's character. And I really came around to him. I was like, I gotta give it to that scene. This is close. Man, I was almost crying when I read it. I was kind of crying when I was just talking about it. It's primo fucking shit. So speaking of which, let me talk about the times I cried and then I almost cried. So Sparks Liner High was a near cry. Not bringing down the knife on Saber was a near cry. Rin having the kill on Sakura but dropping the knife to hug her instead was a near cry. And Shiro and Elia walking home, after grocery shopping, and Elia's just singing a children's song, and Shiro's like, the two of us really do look like siblings right now, don't we? I wonder how we look. I wonder how it would feel if Dad was walking behind us. And then after, when they go home, he's like, Elia, I gotta ask, after the war is done, do you want to live with me? The music stops, he stares at him. Are you asking me as Kiritsu's son? Or just as my friend? And he says, I'm asking you as his son. I can't take his place. That's not my job. But I know as his son, I owe a duty to you to look after you. And it's not just my duty, it's my pleasure because you're my friend and I care about you and I want you to be happy. And she tells him, my answer is no. Because there's no ending where we both get out of this alive, Shiro. She's right. Look at him crying. Fuck, man. It's... My overall thoughts on Heaven's Feel really come down to this. I love everything that isn't Sakura. It's like Sakura is the part that makes me go, I don't know, Chief. But the Shiro shit is fucking top tier. What they do with Saber is heartbreaking and it's top tier. Ely and Kirei are at the top of their game, man. Oh, I actually have to wipe some tears away. Fuck. No, because there's no ending where we both get out of this. To save me, you have to use Archer's arm, which will destroy you. And I know you. I know you will. And I have no business being in this city, let alone your house, without you here, Shiro. So let's just take the days as they come and do our best, okay? Because that'll be enough for me. So yeah, some of these near cries talking about it, they're turning into full cries. It is what it is. Let me see. What are some of the other ones? That one. Okay. So the parts where I fully cried, one of them is the true ending. So we'll put a pin in that because we're about to talk about the endings. And the other one I said is it's the scene right before Superhero. So let's talk about the bad endings. I talked about Sparks. It's fucking amazing. I talked about Superhero. It's fucking great. The ones at the school where Ryder kills Shiro are both pretty fucking metal. There's one where she just like gets the chain around his neck and you just hear the snap. It was like, oh, that was pretty fucked. There's also when he's like, okay, if I close my eyes, she can't petrify me. That's not how it works. And then he just turns to stone and falls and breaks. That one's pretty cool. I talked about Femme Fatale. I talked about Superhero. Okay, so there's one during the Ryder Saber fight where like you can help Ryder too early and you get killed by Saber, and she specifically says, Shiro, I'm doing you a solid. I am mercy killing you. Because whatever Sakura's going to do to you is way worse than this, and I don't want you to have to go through with that. So just rest easy, okay? That one like really stuck out to me. And the Gios ending. Because there's a part where Shiro and Rin have a conversation about like getting into an agreement. And Rin's like, cool, you're going to do everything I say, right? And if Shiro says yes, she puts a Gios in him. And she even tells him like, all right, I'm putting something in you to make sure you do everything I fucking say. And if Shiro says no, Rin's like, well, it was worth a shot. I mean, I figured you would say no. It makes you'd be stupid to have said yes, but hey, I mean, girls gotta try. So after Rin or like Shiro has that conversation with Elia about how I'm going to protect Sakura, and he goes back to the church, and Kirei's like, well, it didn't go great, but I did what I could. And Rin's like, I gotta fucking kill her. I hate to do it. She's my sister, but I gotta put her down. Shiro, I assume you are here because you agree. Is that correct? No, I don't fucking agree. You can't kill her. I won't let you. Oh. You won't let me? Okay, tell me, Emiya Shiro, what the fuck are you gonna do to me? Where's your servant? Because I've got one. Do you have one? No? Okay, so you can't stop me with your servant. What about your magic? What can you do to me in a magic fight to stop me from what I've got to do? Nothing? Cool. Also, you remember when you said you would do whatever I fucking said you, like, told you to do? And I put that Gios in you, right? Stay there. Let me go take care of this. And she activates the Gios, paralyzes him there, and then goes and takes care of Sakura. And after that happens, Shiro's brain just like fries. And it's not the way I read it. It's not like in it's not like as the Heavens Feel route goes, where it's like, oh yeah, using the magic fucked him up, like Rin actually screwed up his mind. It was just that Shiro had this crisis of what do I choose? The girl I love or my ideal? And he chose the woman he loved. And not like 5 minutes later, she died. Because he was powerless to do anything about it. And losing both his ideal and his love, again, within like 5 minutes, just broke him. And there was nothing left. That's another, like, really heartbreaking one that I like. It's like, this is interesting shit. And it is like, yeah, like, you shouldn't have fucking agreed to Rin's contract, idiot. But it is like, it's not just, oh man, like, I did something dumb and I got, like, eaten by the Shadow or Berserker broke my back. It's, no, it feels like a very character-focused bad ending, which is what I really kind of like. So with all that being said, I do need to talk about the normal end and the true end. The normal ending, as I said earlier, Shiro dies, but Sakura and Elia both survive. So Shiro got what he wanted and protected the woman he loved and his sister. And after he died, Sakura lived at the Emiya house. Like, she was able to, like, get it from Taiga. And it goes through, like, the rest of her life. And how every year, every spring, and, like, the anniversary of this happening, she plants a flower. And you'll just kind of see, like, the narration will go, like, it's spring. It's spring. And then in the background, you see another flower. it's spring, and then you see another one, and they just keep, there's more and more and more. And the genuine sense I got from this is Sakura became a healthier person, but she was still a lonely person because the man she loved died. And they weren't able to fulfill their promise of, seeing all the cherry blossoms together. But she was able to find some sense of stability, was able to work through her issues and become a better person, and was able to actually have a relationship with Rin. Rin got married, continued the Tosaka line, and her grandkids are like, Aunt Sakura, you're fucking cool, but Grandma's a real piece of shit. Which is really funny to me. And I'm gonna be honest, of the two, I think it's the better ending. Number one, it's very bittersweet, and for something as dark as Heaven's Feel, I feel like that bittersweetness feels right. Two, like I said, it's the better ending for Shiro because he kept both people he wanted. The people he wanted to protect most, both of them survived. Even at the cost of his life, and I feel like that works for him. And to me, the bittersweetness makes it feel like Sakura didn't get away with all of the shit she was doing by the end. Because like I said, to me, I don't really sympathize with her by the end. Once you bring in the loaded gun to a public place, you're not the victim anymore. And so the idea of Sakura just getting her happy ending, as fucked up as it sounds, there's a point in the novel where it just doesn't sit right with me, especially after reading Femme Fatale. But an ending where she's able to get away from her abusers, which I want for her, I sincerely fucking do, is able to get away from her abusers and find stability. I'm fine with that. I like that. Even if it's not with Shiro. The true ending, on the other hand, is before Shiro can use the last projection to destroy the Grail, Elia shows up and is this is the other part that made me cry. It's when she says her last words to Shiro, and here they come the tears. Let me show you a miracle. Because I don't want you to die. So, before I go, and as this is happening, Shiro's brain is so fried, he doesn't know who she is. But he sees her, he's like, there's something about her. I don't know what it is, but it's familiar. She's important to me. And that whatever she's about to do, she needs to stop it. And she says to him, for what it's worth, I am really glad we got to be siblings. And that's the moment where it clicks, and he realizes who she is. And he's just like, no, Elia. He's screaming for her not to do it. And then she just tells him, by the way, Shiro, you had it wrong. You kept calling me your little sister. But I'm the older one. So like you said, as the older sibling, it's my duty to protect you. And then she dies. And essentially, you don't see it happen, but essentially the explanation is she used the power of the Grail to take Shiro's soul out of his dying body, make a new body, and then put his body into that one. Or put his soul into that one. So Shiro's fine. Cut to, I think it's 2 years later. Essentially, it's Rin has been doing shit in London as the head of the family. Shiro and Sakura are living together in the Emiya house, along with Ryder, who hasn't disappeared. And then they all go view the cherry blossoms together. That's basically it. And it's very sweet. My problem with it is how sweet it is. It's just nice. It's Sakura got her man. She kept her servant. She's on good terms with her sister. Everything's good. And all it cost was Elia dying for her to get what she wanted. And that's why I don't like the normal ending. It's I want you to be able to get away with your abusers and live some sense of a stable life. But not at the cost of Elia. No. Fuck you. I'm not rooting for you to end up with Shiro because of the fucking awful things you are doing now. And because your relationship to me reads more like it's one based on mutual lust than genuine love, which makes me less invested. That's why I look at with Elia, and it's like, this is not a relationship I'm rooting for in a romantic sense, but him and his sister being able to, like, overcome the generational fucking issue that was Kiritsugu, and be able to have a bond and a relationship. Again, not one that's romantic, not one that's sexual, but still have something. It's like, that's the relationship I want to see based on this route. Not this one. Why does this one get the true ending that's like, yeah, this is the super happy one where they'll go see the flowers together and everyone is fine except that one, but I mean, it is what it is. No, fuck you, Sakura. And it really left me, like, despite it being the happier ending, it left me with the much more bitter feeling. And I got it first. And then I was like, all right, let me get a guide real quick so I can just do everything to get the normal ending. I'm like, this one left, despite it being the bitter ending, it made me feel far more fulfilled. What the fuck is this shit? So, those are the Heavens Feel endings. And, like, looking at the main characters, I've talked about Shiro, Sakura, and Kirei. I've talked, I feel like, enough about Elia. Like, really what I like about her in this route, to kind of sum it up, I love the emphasis on the brother-sister dynamic with Shiro. I think it works super well. I'm actively rooting for it because it's so fucking sweet. I want these two to have a happy ending. But kind of like how Kirei is taking his role as the supervisor far more seriously, I like how she does the same as the Ainsburn representative and as the Grail. There are problems, and I need to fucking handle it. The fact that she does take responsibility at the end of, like, I'm the older sister, let me fucking show you. God damn it, I can't help but cry. It's like, let me show you a miracle because I want to save you as much as you want to save me. Is beautiful. Like, I do love that. I just hate that it had to happen. It's like, I hate that it had to happen for Sakura's sake. I think that's what bothers me. I'm like, why are you benefiting from Elia's sacrifice? This pisses me off. And how Elia, you see it in the other routes. Like, you see that coldness. You do, like, I think it's in the Dean adaptation of the Fate route. When Archer is fighting Elia, she's like, or, like, Archer's like, you know what? You're just the same as I remember you. Just as cold, just as merciless. It's kind of nostalgic. And yeah, it's one of those where it's like, if you know everything that's going on, you're like, he's essentially just reminiscing about his sister. He's like, I remember you when you were like this. And it's nostalgic for me, but I know you're going to change. I know you're going to get better. And if this is what, like, if I have to fight you to save you, I will fight you 10 times out of 10. I feel like after watching Heaven's Feel, like, that might actually, like, really affect me if I rewatch. After reading Heaven's Feel, that might fuck me up if I rewatch that anime or watch that scene. But regardless. I found myself really heavily sympathizing with Elia, and the entire time I was like, I fucking hope she survives this route. I'd be heartbroken if she died, and of course she fucking did, and clearly I'm heartbroken. I keep trying. I do have to shout out Rin in this route. What I love about the way Rin is written, she just doesn't take Sakura's bullshit. And I feel like I'm just like, thank you. You are kind of my perspective on this. Like, she is a... Take a fucking shot every time I've said like in this video. I'm sorry. I keep realizing it. Rin feels like she's representing my mentality of, you are no longer the victim once you start endangering innocent people. Am I sorry for what happened to you? Yes. Do I regret that I was unable to save you? Of course. But you are now the problem. And if you are going to persist on being the problem, I'm going to treat you like one. I'm not going to treat you like the victim anymore. I'm not going to give you any sympathy. If you're going to hurt me and my friends and my city, fuck you. Maybe that'll be the thumbnail instead of that. Was that it? It was something like that. it made me sympathize with Rin a lot in this route. And like consistently, she's great in every route. I would say overall Shiro, I think, is my favorite character, but Rin is consistently great. Saber's consistently great. Archer, when he gets to do shit, is awesome. And then Kirei and Ilya in this route fucking steal the show. I didn't have, I talked about Ryder because there really wasn't much to say. I talked about a little bit with Shinji. I've definitely talked about Kirei. Is there anyone else besides Zoken? I don't really have much. All I literally have written down for my notes for Zoken, it's just, Zoken, you old fuck. He's just a piece of shit, but in terms of like facilitating the horror, he does his job really well. But okay, I do have to say this. So frequently when reading Heaven's Feel, I would also read it on my phone because I have it on my computer. I would just kind of like read scenes, especially if I was hanging out with Clay and he'd be reading Umineko. I'd be like, all right, what's going on? Umineko, cool. And then just like keep reading HF. And then I would load it back up on my computer. And then just, if it was shit that I've already read on my phone, I would just skip over it. The scene where Sakura like takes the Zoken's worm out of her body and is like talking shit to it and destroys it. One is the scene I most sympathized with Sakura in the entire round. I was like, okay, I kind of don't like you anymore, but you get this one. This one's free. I remember going like, okay, I can't skip this scene. I want to hear it voice acted because I want to hear that little worm squirm. I want to hear him afraid. I want to hear him beg for his life because fuck you. And it was so fucking satisfying. I loved it. So overall, after gosh, this video was like an hour longer than because I think the other two were like 40 minutes, maybe an hour. I figured Heaven's Feel was going to be the longest because I feel like I have the most to say. It's the most mixed of any of the routes. I feel like at its best, it's arguably the best one. The way it writes Shiro, Rin, Kirei, Ilya, some of the bad endings with Sparks Liner High and Superhero and even like the Gios ending. Some of them are just so good. There's other areas where to me it kind of suffers. The main heroine, I don't like. The main relationship, I don't like. Of the two endings, one of them I think is really good, and the other true ending, like, I don't like it. The fights in the climax, two of them are fantastic. One of them I don't think is very good, but most of the other fights in the route are just not that good. And I feel like that is, it's focusing less on the action and more on the horror. And I do think the horror elements do work really well. Overall, I think it is my second favorite. I do think it's better than the Fate route. Although after reading the last episode, I was like, you know what? I do like the Fate route more than I think I do. It's good shit. I really like it. I think I like Heaven's Feel more, but it doesn't quite match up to UBW. So that's all I have to say for that route. That's all I have to say after an hour and 42 minutes. About to be an hour and 43 minutes. But I'm glad to be done, and not in the sense of like, I fucking hated this. I'm so glad to be done. Because clearly I didn't. I fucking loved it. I'm glad that I was able to experience the source material. Because I just kept hearing that, no, like the adaptations never do it justice. They never do Shiro justice. You have to read the VN, and to everyone that all the friends I've had that have said, you gotta do it, you were right. I'm glad I listened. Good fucking shit.